This idea of being a weary sailor is something that as we, kind of started progressively unfolding what the album was going to look like, people started coming to me and be like Zion, what does it really mean to be a weary sailor? I know you're a songwriter, I know you're a poet, so help me climb into your mind. And I want to read something for you a little bit. We're going to be talking about this morning what it means to be a weary sailor, because I think it's something that so many of us can understand and relate to. This idea of being a weary sailor. And I want to encourage you this morning, because being a weary sailor, there's such power, there's such anointing in that place. And I want to speak courage into your life this morning. So I've wrote a little something to help us understand what a weary sailor looks like. Weary sailors crave the salty breeze on their tongue. They look unto the sea and see not fear, but endless opportunity. Weary sailors live in the damp shade of their rolling ships, pushing onward further and farther. With the clap of their flags at hand, they explore deeper into the unknown. Weary sailors are at home when surrounded by the piercing gaze of eternal blue. No land in sight, but the anticipation drives them on. Can you taste the salt on your lips, the rough twine of the rope in your hands, the rock as we sway to the rhythms of the waves? What is this weary sailor but a mere man, a mere woman driven by the anticipation to explore? Skin scorched by the blazing sun and chafed by the consistent rush of salty wind, they are tired. Yet another day at sea, but the fire burning in their hearts, a raging flame for a deeper glimpse of the one who governs these seas. It blazes all the more. And with their sun-bathed faces and blistered hands, they press on. We are such weary sailors, tired by the thrusting sea, and yet driven by the desire for a new glimpse of His love, the most important love. These are the words that inspired the nature of this album. As a church, we were in a season of what it means to be a weary sailor. We're a church plant. We've really only been around for, we started in the living room of my parents' house. The green room was actually in my room where the worship team would kind of get ready and stuff like that. And kids' church was in my little brother's room. He was a teenager at the time, so you can imagine that was crazy. But we were in a season of feeling like weary sailors because we had stepped out into this open sea. And the open sea is vulnerable. It is scary. I'm a newlywed. Come on, somebody. And I'm so excited to have married the love of my life. And we got married last November, and we had the incredible opportunity to go on a honeymoon that was a cruise. And we took a cruise from New York City to the Bahamas and back. It was great. It was an amazing trip. But New York is very far from the Bahamas. So we were on the ship for a very, very long time. It was good for me because I tend to be kind of crazy all the time. My mind is going, and so it forced me to rest. It forced me to seclude from the world. But I don't know if anybody's ever experienced that feeling of being in the open sea. I remember there was this moment about the second day that we had been kind of out and about, and I walked out onto the deck, and there's nothing like looking out and seeing this endless blue horizon all around you. Just nothing but blue all around you. It's a bit overwhelming. Or at night when you go up there, on the deck, and you see nothing but this piercing black everywhere you look. It's a bit overwhelming. It's a bit scary. You feel vulnerable. The wind is rushing all around you. I remember there was this one day where actually I hit it big because it's our honeymoon, and I decided to get us a balcony room, which is awesome. But I put my swimsuit on one of the chairs that was on our balcony. Left it there through the night. Wasn't there in the morning because the gusting wind was so intense. It's floating somewhere in the Atlantic Ocean. But it's crazy. It is insane if you've been in the open sea. The slightest gust of wind can change our course. The slightest wave can overturn our ship. We are at the mercy of the sea. And yet as believers, this is where we are called to remain. On the open sea of our faith, pressing deeper and further, pressing onward in our faith. Because there's so much more of our God to explore than we could ever imagine. When we think we understand Him, there's a new realm of His character to dive into. When you think we've stepped out in faith, there's a new place that you can step out. There's a deeper place, a deeper trust in our God that we can step into. This is where we are called to live, to explore the open seas of our faith. And I don't know about you, but I don't want to be a believer that sits on the shore wishing I had the courage to trench out just a little bit further, to go just a little bit deeper. I don't want to sit at the shore, seeing everybody else go out before me and just wishing I had the courage to do it. I want to be out there, living on the seas, living in this unwavering faith in my God. I'm so thankful to be in a company of believers at 2911 that thrive in that environment. Jumping out into Crescent Ballroom and really having no budget to record this album, but knowing that we were called to do it, and so stepping out and doing it. I believe that this incredible facility is a company of people that are unafraid to step out into this unwavering waters. Even this experience, this chapel right here, you're in a community of people that want to go deeper. Because you're sitting in this room, you want to go deeper. But on the open seas, we know the storms are sure to come. They will come. It's a part of what it means to be on the open sea. In Mark, we see one of these scenarios of weary sailors. There's this incredible exchange with Jesus and His disciples, and I want to read it for you. I'm going to be reading out of Mark 4. I'm going to start with verse 35. It says, "As the evening came, Jesus said to His disciples, 'Let's cross to the other side of the lake.' So they took Jesus in the boat and started out, leaving the crowds behind, although other boats followed. But soon a fierce storm came up, and the boats turned away. High waves were breaking into their boat, and it began to fill with water. Jesus was sleeping at the back of the boat with his head on a cushion. The disciples woke him up shouting, 'Teacher, don't you care about we're going to drown?' When Jesus woke up, he rebuked the wind and said to the waves, 'Silence, be still.' Suddenly the wind stopped and there was a great calm. And then he asked them, 'Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?' The disciples were absolutely terrified. 'Who is this man?' they asked each other. 'Even the wind and the waves obey him.'" I remember sitting in Isaac's room. This is my good friend Isaac over here. He's our music director, and I remember years ago at this point writing a song that we're going to do here in just a few moments called Tempest. And this was the passage that we were really kind of trying to recreate. We wanted to place a room in this experience where you felt the waves crashing over you. Because I think so many of us can identify with what that feels like. To be in a place where you have the waves just towering above you. And yet the constant reality of a God who is just wavering through it all. The peace in it all. And I think this very place was where the disciples found themselves on that day. I mean, I can just see them now, casting out into the Sea of Galilee. I mean, these men some of them were fishermen. They knew what they were doing. Like, this wasn't like a kind of stepping out into the unknown scenario. For them, this was kind of like hey, like, I've been on a boat many, many times. And then the wind began to howl. They saw these boats that were following him start to turn away. The waves begin to stir up. You know, kind of that feeling when you see a haboob in the distance, you're like, oh, here it comes. And begin to see these waves rushing suddenly to the point where they're starting to kind of curve over into the boat. The boat is starting to fill with water. The panic that they must have experienced. Like, oh my gosh, are we even going to make it to the other side? I know so many of you are in that place this morning. The winds and the waves are billowing against you. You feel the oppression, the press of that storm pushing against you. You're holding tight to these ropes, just praying that you don't get cast overboard. The water is rushing in. You feel like your ship is beginning to sink. But I want to encourage you this morning, because there is a hope that is with you. There's a hope that left the shore with you. He's in the boat with you. He was in the boat with the disciples, and I love it because he was sleeping. Our Jesus was sleeping in the midst of this storm. You know what that tells me? He did not care that there was a storm happening around him. Despite the waves and the wind, he was able to rest easy. Jesus trusted his God because his rest assured in knowing that this was not the end of his story. This wasn't the end. He knew that he still had a purpose to accomplish. He knew that there was still a realm of this plan that he had been sent for that he had yet to accomplish. There was still a new realm of reality in his mind. There was new people that he still needed to reach. There was still a teaching that he had to give to his disciples. This was not the end of his story. He knew he was going to get to the other side. He absolutely 100% knew he was going to be able to get there. And so he was resting easy through the storm. This is not the end of your story. Your Father will not fail you. He will not forsake you. The hope is resting in your boat with you right now, despite the winds and the waves and the press and the rushing, gusting, thrusting, throwing back and forth that you're experiencing. He's with you in the boat. So rest assured in the fact that he knows that you're going to make it to the other side. Weary sailors we may be, but weary sailors we will remain. Because the cost for what it means to be a weary sailor, that assurance that we have to rely on our Father who's with us. Oh, my friends, it is so worth the purpose that you find on the other side. It is so worth the power that is released in your life when suddenly you discover what you have been looking for. Amen? It is so worth it. And we find rest in the journey on the constant promise of our Savior who is resting by your side. Amen? So we're going to continue to worship this morning. And we're going to do a few songs that are actually off of this album. And so most of you will probably not know the words. But we wanted to, as a team, give you an opportunity to just rest with your Jesus this morning. To rest in all that he is. To find hope and peace. Maybe you are a weary sailor this morning. Find hope and peace in the Jesus that is here with you in this place. Amen.